What are we waiting for? Look. Hello, nation. The two of you.
All six of you? Hang
Look at
about.
that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever, I'm going to claim this, the first ever weekly dedicated Diabotical podcast ever in existence. We will run either forever until someone better, someone does one better, or if the game dies. So those last two could happen at any point. So I'm going to run through the panel. We have GMT just below me, caster extraordinaire. Some say he looks a bit like Hagrid at the moment. And we've also got Harry Potter bottom right of him. Phaze is our special guest. He won't be on every single week, but when we start struggling for new guests, he will be back 100%. And we also have dueler extraordinaire Steej, who's clearly from Australia, as you can tell, just hanging out in the top right there. I'll figure out how to change that at some point. But
You love your own joke, don't you,
I'm
Jake?
I'm shrouded in darkness. I don't have an introduction. I'm just me, and with bad lighting, apparently, pointed out by Neepal. So, yes, hello, everyone. Right, so we obviously have a few things to talk about. We've got a very loose agenda, and I'm looking at GMT's wide eyes as he's going to talk to us, and Phaze probably as well, about the NA teams that just happened this past weekend, right? So Liquid won. What were your thoughts? How did it go? What did you
Boring.
see?
Oh, straight in with the boring.
Phaze. I mean,
Dude, I did expect for more teams to actually give challenge to Team Liquid like they did in the previous day.
well,
I
who beat them the previous day? Was it
Cybrain.
Cybrain.
Brick, etc., isn't it? And Cygib.
Yeah.
Insane. Let's not forget my evil twin.
And Sane. Yes. So what happened in that series that got them the win? Was it? I noticed they seem to take Liquid seem to struggle with the wipeout game modes, which is a little bit expected. But yeah, I mean, how did that one go? I didn't actually catch that series the day before.
Yeah, so, I mean, Liquid, you want to say are weaker in the wipeout, and I think on the Saturday they were. Cybrain, mechanically very gifted, and also I think James pointed out this quite accurately. Sane had a bad day Sunday. Just wasn't performing to his usual level. So Team Liquid, I think they were weaker on the Saturday. Just in general, across all the modes, honestly. But then Sunday, Championship Sunday, they come alive, and that veteran savvy comes into play, I think.
Did you catch the Rafa double kill at the end of that one, Steej? That was that's the first time I've watched Wipeout, and I've been pretty hype because that was.
Honestly, that happens far too often. I don't know if like Phaze, you've played too much Wipeout, but in threes, like sometimes it's 1 versus 3. Like it happens a lot. That lifesteal can be, pretty deadly.
Yeah, it's deadly, and the use of a smoke. I mean, in that situation, it was either he's gonna do a huge fuck up with that smoke, or he's somehow gonna pull it out of the bag, and he did. So yeah.
If you hit your rockets, you pretty much don't die. So.
Well, I remember when the sort of the first stress tests were coming out, and I was talking to various people about a Wipeout and like what they thought about the mode, and like one of the things that people seemed to be the most excited about was like the clutch potential, because it kind of reminds them of like other games like Counter-Strike or Valorant now, I guess, as well. Like when you're that last alive and you can hit some really nice kind of highlights that could go viral or could be kind of remembered in especially if it was at a LAN. So that's like one really nice aspect of Wipeout esports would be those kind of last man alive type things, because I think everyone, including you guys on the cast, just assumed he was done for, right? And he just gets that healing from those direct rockets. It was absolutely nuts. But yeah, that was a really cool moment for sure. And
Good clip for my demo reel.
That's it. Yeah, it's literally. Oh, it's been linked in the chat. Lovely.
There you go.
Rafa, you monster. There you go.
I believe that was me that said that. Ooh.
I think it was just you and James shouting over each other and couldn't make out who was saying what.
Yeah, James does that classic. I'm going to be analysis, but he'll do play-by-play just over the top as well. GMT sat there like, what do I do?
Still getting paid, man. I don't care.
Yes, just like we all are right now. Anyway, so yeah, I noticed Liquid are really good with the MacGuffin game modes, which to me isn't really surprising. What do we think about these modes in general for competitive. I mean, I'm looking at you, Steej and Phaze. Really, I've noticed you've been screaming a lot in Down Under. GMT, we're undefeated in MacGuffin. I think we don't need to speak too much on it, but yeah, how are you guys finding it?
First of all, instead of the game modes, let's go to 3v3. I want to know what Phaze thinks of 3v3 in general, moving away from the 4s or even the 5s.
Like, truth be told, I think because we're all so used to playing in any game, realistically, you have either 4 versus 4 or 5 versus 5 game modes. In Quake, pretty much most of the game modes were like team game modes were focused on the 4s and 5s, sometimes 2s depending on the game. You had Quake Roll that used 2s, you had Quake 3 that used 2s, and then Quake Live that predominantly had the 4s in CDF and in TDM. So, you know, coming from those games to Diabotical and playing 3v3 is a massive change. You really have to adjust on the go. And not having that 4th player can put a lot of pressure on each individual player, in my opinion, which you can really see happening in most teams. If you listen to NA teams practice, as they like to stream their scrims, there's a lot of pressure on each player to perform well. And as GMT was pointing out today, and same with James, Sane didn't perform that good on Sunday, which him being the mid laner, being the player that can support either the both the top player that is pushing for the items or the one running away with the life, him not being able to fulfill that role has essentially cost him the game, I think.
Yeah, so I don't mind the 3s concept, but I think it's quite hard to make it work well, especially, you know, you have to have obviously really good maps, the line of sights and stuff like that, because if they get the MacGuffin and they're away, it's kind of hard. I think that's why CTF is also going to be probably not going to come competitive, because imagine 3 players in CTF, you know what I mean? You'd have to have really well built maps for that, as opposed to 4s. You can sort of get away with a little bit more in that regard. But I don't know. I like the game modes. Obviously, MacGuffin I think is the definite favorite. What do you think of all the game modes, and what would you rank them in order of favorite to worst?
Wipeout number 1 for Phaze. Easy.
No. Are you mental? I'm a TDM player. So I'll go with Extinction number 1. It's the closest thing that you can get to TDM at the moment. I'm not a big fan of the items time spawners. I think it sucks. And it kind of messes with the competitive side of things. Because everybody has an easy access to a weapon at all times, which is something that TDM never had. You had either 30 seconds or 25 seconds item spawners, depending on the game. And yeah, Extinction number 1, MacGuffin number 2, and then Wipeout number 3.
I hear a big complaint about Extinction is like the starting spawns, because obviously you can get really powerful starting spawns on certain maps where, you know, like 3 of you could effectively get, like, you know, LGs, for example, or sorry, shafts, sorry, James, like right off the bat, or some other powerful weapon like that. Whereas in TDM, you know, where you start is obviously important, but there's no way one team could be fully equipped way before the other. So is that's got to be some. I don't even know how you fix that unless you start adding in. I know there was talk of like 15-second weapon spawners, but I can't remember if that was for Extinction or TDM. But that's definitely seems to be a big concern for some of the players I've spoken to anyway. You know, like Icefall, you could spawn literally with Shaft, and then the other team spawns on the red, and then the guy who gets red just dies to like 2 guys with Shaft. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Steej plays scrims that much. Do you? With you guys?
Yeah, we play quite a bit actually.
Oh, yeah, because it's you, Phrase, and Kama, right?
Oh,
yes,
absolutely.
Okay,
mean team.
So if Steej can probably agree with me on that. When you play, for example, on a map like Icefall, the initial spawn is usually going to determine if you're going to win or lose the round. Like, good 90% of the time. At least that's what is happening in Europe. And the other issue that you have in Extinction and Icefall map, or even Oxide, you spawn in the same room with your teammates most of the time. meaning that the amount of resources that you have per team and per player are so minimal. It's very hard to do anything. Unlike having people spawn all around the map. Sure, you could be spawning next to the enemy, but then you have to fight for that weapon. But if you if you spawn with your teammates in the same place, it's like it's a little bit of RNG. Who's gonna get the item, and you're then left without an item, and you have to wait for it a little bit longer than you should normally.
Do we think it's a bit of a mistake? Because clearly they want TDM to be in the game at some point. Extinction almost feels like a mode that kind of is a bit of a plaster, or like a band-aid for people trying to break into the TDM mode. Do you think it's a little bit of a mistake to have this Extinction in for a whole season, and then I'm assuming they're going to bring TDM in for season 2, or do you think this is the right way of going about it? Because people basically what I'm saying is people they're going to have to learn TDM at some point, right? Like that's going to come because that is the most competitive team mode. I would argue, it takes the most skill, the most coordination, but it also has the steepest learning curve. And I think James is obviously worried that players that have been playing it for years and years are just going to win all the prize money initially, and then no one's going to want to play. But I really don't think that's the case, and I think people might actually enjoy learning about it. So I don't know if that's a mistake or if you agree with the strategy at the moment.
I think I'll leave it up to Steej this time.
I honestly don't like Extinction. And I think it's honestly harder for the new players when you think about it. I don't know if you've ever played public matches, but trying to coordinate, with limited lives, or, having them understand that they have to be the one taking the items or leaving the items or protecting you or charging them, when they're a ghost or whatnot. It's a nightmare. It's just impossible to play with a public team almost. And TDM, I think it's a little bit easier. It's just you have one goal. Get more kills than the enemy team. That's it. It's easy to understand. You get a gun and you go around killing people. Like, I would honestly prefer TDM. I know there's obviously his worry was that some teams are just going to dominate it. But I can't say. I've never played TDM in any other Quake or anything. Well, I've never even versed good TDM teams, so I don't know. But I would honestly think I would prefer TDM over Extinction for sure, because Extinction is like my least favorite mode.
Joel, you're quite a fan of Extinction. I think I definitely think it's not like a terrible mode, but like because it definitely has some depth right at the sort of top when you watch the top teams play, and you see how they kind of protect the guy with the life lead, and like the decision of do you give the power up to the life lead guy to stay alive more, but he's probably not going to be going aggressive, that kind of thing. But what do you reckon? Do you think Extinction will have a place in season 2 as well, or do you think we'll be saying goodbye?
I'm really not sure. I'm very conflicted on it. So I feel like TDM has some elements to it that Extinction is just never going to match. The simplicity of it. It's similar to Duel. Just kill the enemy team, shoot the men. And it's interesting because Extinction, and we were having this debate on stream, was Extinction, the rules are more complex. But maybe the way that you play it is a little bit simpler. Whereas TDM, the rules are very simple. But like all great games, chess, Go, I don't know whatever else you want to put in that category. StarCraft, maybe football even. The rules are very simple. The complexity comes from the interaction, how you go about achieving that goal. So I think there's an elegance to TDM that Extinction, being slightly more gamey, is never going to. But at the same time, I think we're seeing some intrigue there, and there are more natural points of excitement in Extinction. Having some players prioritized over others mean that certain frags mean more than others. And from a broadcasting perspective, that's quite nice. So I think it depends. Are we going for a viewer experience or are we going for a player experience? And I still think that definitely we need to be considering Extinction or TDM.
I'm going to add to that. I'm going to say fuck esport players in general. That includes me, myself, and everybody that wants to compete, purely because in a way you want to be looking at it from the perspective, yes, you want to have good esports, but at the same time, is the esports enjoyable to watch? Because then you're gonna have those people then potentially trying to play the game, or even watch it. Even if they don't play it, they're gonna be people that are gonna be returning to the tournaments to watch them, right? Because the team modes are exciting, what's happening in the game is exciting, and I don't think TDM can provide that, unfortunately. I think Extinction, given even though I can agree with Steej on the mechanics that there's so much to Extinction that there was never to TDM that people may get confused as new players rather than, as Steej said, the objective is kill as many people as possible. That's it, and win with your team. But then again, when it comes to the viewer experience, I think that's boring. I think Extinction provides that value. It's not the best mode, I would argue. It's probably not the most enjoyable mode to play as well. But if people enjoy watching it, then you have to really put it onto scale. What's more important, the viewers and the people that it could potentially get into the game, or the esports scene and them enjoying the game mode fully, rather than half and half.
Yeah, I think someone just pointed out in chat actually, like TDM will just, like, if you're watching it from like a viewer's perspective, TDM kind of will just end at some point, right? That can get exciting if it comes down to the wire, if there's like a couple of kills in it or something like that. But I think Extinction, it does have the potential to, you can almost have like almost like a chase, right? Like the one guy's just trying everything he can to stay alive, and that can be really exciting, especially with some good casting, GMT. I'm sure there'll be times when you're shouting your lungs out as some dude's like literally trying to hang on for dear life. But so yeah, it's tricky, and I think all of these like discussions, it's always going to come down to, is it better for the viewer / maybe new eyes on the product, or is it better for the actual pros playing the match? And there's going to be I think there's forever going to be like a balancing act where people probably deep down know that TDM should be probably the premier mode for teams, maybe along with CTF as well. But is it really that fun to watch? Like, is CTF really that fun to watch? One player pretty much be a dedicated defender. It could be great fun to play, but like, is it going to be fun for people to watch some dude sitting in the base all game just killing people as they come in?
It's a question that we were trying to answer practicing for the broadcast for Diabotical release.
Oh, okay.
And TDM was a challenge because you have to appreciate it on a different level. You have to be able to watch a team win and enjoy that even without drama. The education of the viewers could be good enough that is exciting. In the same way, like, let's say you're watching Barcelona versus some lower team in La Liga. The Barcelona are going to win. It's just in what style, and you can appreciate the mastery, right? So I think it's a broadcasting challenge more than actually a question of which team mode should be encouraged. But I don't exactly know how I fall on that, honestly. Like, Extinction, I'm still learning about it. I'm still learning about how type up the moments. It presents more obvious moments, but at the same time, as we saw yesterday, the observing is so crucial there and so easily mistaken. I don't blame Jahar for that at all, but you're just going to miss that final frag. So as much as that was an opportunity for hype, you're not always going to catch it anyway. So yeah, I'm very conflicted. I think it's going to take time for us to really see which is the way to.
Well, I wonder if this is why they are naming it the Test Tournament Series, right? They're trying to figure stuff out.
No, it is. It's always about figuring things out and making sure that when you do proceed with the actual esports scene and you put a lot of money into it, it's at least polished to the point where you can present it to people.
Yeah, I mean, it was people that say it was impossible. I spoke to a couple of people who said it was really difficult to watch some of the team stuff, but I mean, it was actually very nice to follow. I mean, the benefit of having those top players is that no matter what POV you're looking at, it's easy to understand what's going on, I think, anyway. And you're going to see good players. Unless you're watching Brick. I was actually really rooting for them to go all the way through. But, it was quite a good final. I mean, I'll be honest, I love cheering for an underdog, so I didn't really want to see a Liquid win. Because now they're all going to disappear off to the QPL, but yeah, it was good fun. I mean, it's always great to see, like, it's pretty surreal to see like Rafa honestly playing this little game already. Like, it's pretty cool, and who knows what the future holds in that regard. But I was gonna ask you, Steej, from the bits that you did see, what do you did you take anything away from watching the sort of NA style? Like, did you Phaze and Cam maybe have a little look and see anything that you could pick up, or is it much the same from where you're playing at the moment?
I haven't watched too much, but for the most part, I think they play Extinction maybe a little bit more cleaner than we do. I think our MacGuffin game's pretty good, pretty strong, and our Wipeout, Wipeout can be sort of a coin flip. I think it's very hard to be consistent in Wipeout, and that's because there's not really much objective. It's like even when you wipe them, they're coming back 5 seconds later with 200, 100, and you're 200 and 0, and you sort of have to die at the right times. So I don't know, it's quite hard to be consistent in Wipeout. But yeah, I think the NA people just play maybe Extinction a little bit better than us, a little bit cleaner. Their comms are good. But yeah, I haven't seen too much, and I don't know what's happening with the Euros.
No one bloody knows.
I haven't seen much at all.
Apart from Phaze, I would imagine. They don't seem to stream. Well, I've seen Buxter's been streaming quite a lot. I don't know if he's been. I don't know if he's streaming scrims or like just matchmaking or what's going on, Phaze? Why is it so secretive?
No, ask away.
Well, I don't even know who your third is, for example. I presume you and Abso are joining forces.
Me and Abso are playing, and the third player that we are trying to play with at the moment is Kuki. He is a relatively unknown player to the arena FPS genre in general. He's from Italy. He's one of the best Kavak players at the moment. He's been playing, I think, arena FPS games for like 2 years, getting pretty good. I think he almost got into the Italian tournament where you had it was 2018 Luca, I think, or 2018 Luca, and you had 3 players from Italy getting into him, and I think he just barely lost to Polterizer. Wenger was also there, so him having only 1 year experience then and already almost qualifying for that tournament was massive. So we've been playing with him, trying him out. His aim is insane. Probably one of the cleanest shaft players that you will see in the tournament. Is he better than players like Claus, Silencep, Wins? Not yet, but I think there's so much potential to such a new player to the genre that you can, in a weird way, I'm gonna say that word, but exploit him to become such a beast. It's insane. The guy is extremely talented. So we're gonna be playing with him. When it comes to other teams, yes, you will be having Tuzi returning to play professionally once again.
With James?
With James at first.
What's the lineup?
The lineup is Latromi, Silencep, and James right now. If James is not going to be in the team, it might be Claus. It might be another player. It probably wouldn't be. I'm not feeling comfortable enough to say who could be their other player at the moment. As James already mentioned that team, but I'm not going to mention the extra guy. The other team to look out for is going to be Bus Driver's team. It's going to be Bus Driver, Liv, and Juvenile, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be us, me, Abso, Cookie. You will have Krissa, Luminous, and DK.
Wow, okay.
Krissa being one of the old school OG TDM players, so it's going to be hard to play against him, definitely. You will have Buxter, Firebot, Neutrino. I think even
That's a nice
Danches,
team, isn't it? That's a nice team.
And then you have
Firebot
Danches
outside
and
of Duel, interesting, right? But should do okay.
I'll give you a little scoop. We actually did try to play with Firebot. Now, the biggest issue with playing with dual players is because they've spent most of their time and lifetime playing in Quake, so other arena FPS games, playing dual. They have that specific mindset that is very hard to change, and it will take a lot of time in order to change that. So even though Firebot is a great dual player, those guys will, like his team, because it's Neutrino, Buxter, and him, even though they have played TDMs before for fun, and they did compete. I think Buxter and Neutrino played together in Quake Champions 2v2. But that doesn't compare to what a game of Extinction is. I think a lot of people that will do really well in Extinction are TDM players. A lot of people that will do really well in MacGuffin are the Sacrifice players. And then a lot of people that will do well in Wipeout are the Clan Arena players. So at the moment, there's not that much threat from the EU scene, apart from 2Z and Bus Driver's team. Perhaps Crystal Luminous and DK might surprise people. But NA is looking actually a little bit more stronger, I would say,
Okay.
Well,
when
they've
it
got
comes
more
to
teams,
the amount of
right?
players. And yeah, exactly. The amount of teams and players that are playing on a high level is far greater than TDM in Europe. Oh, well, 3v3 in Europe, given that a lot of Quake Life players are not competing anymore.
What about Wins? Where's
Yeah,
Wins
well,
going?
I was about
Or
to
what
ask.
about
The
Cooler,
prettiest
Base,
princess.
and Agent? What about all that?
I would-
Where is Wins?
And
Where
where's
is it?
Evil?
I think everybody wants to see Wins play. At least that's my statement. He is the best team player there ever was in Quake in general. I would definitely say Noctis wins too good. Probably the best players that Europe ever had. Now, is he going to be competing in Diabotical? I can't say for sure. The probability is high of me saying no. But there could be certain things happening that might persuade him to play. It really depends on if there's going to be enough good players and if there's going to be probably something really worth to fight for. I mean, look at the guy. He's got 6 world titles in, 6 different games. Like, what does he need now? I mean, he's done it all, right? It would really take something special to persuade him to compete again. Yes, he's been helping out with the game, but the first qualifier, I don't think he will be playing. And if he did, the team that he would be playing on would also be a surprise. That I'm not gonna spoil yet.
It's interesting,
isn't
right?
it? God.
Because the guy would have such high standards that he needs, first of all, a really good team.
Yep.
He needs a strong competitive scene. If he doesn't even get one of those things, he's probably just going to step out. And that's a shame because arguably the best player in the entire world will be missed, and sorely so, from the competitive scene.
Yeah, I think if Wins did play, and his ideal team, I would imagine it would be him, Toxic, and maybe Noxus, perhaps.
What I'd love to see, right? Let's say he just disappears, right? He disappears for season 1. He's nowhere to be seen. Everyone's like, "Where's Wins?" Like, and then whoever wins, like, let's say the best team in Europe becomes, let's say, the best team in the world, right? Let's just argue that for a second. They win season 1, whatever the big final is, right? And it's like, oh, we're the best team in the world. There's no one that can beat us. And then, like, Wins has just been secretly lurking. He's been watching, and he comes back, signs to, like, Fnatic or someone like that. If the scene builds up, I wonder if we will actually see him, right? If there's money to be made, if there's a salary, sponsorships, opportunities, just a bigger scene in general, and he's just going to come back and reclaim the rightful throne, the Iron Throne, and he's just going to come back with his secret super team and just smash it. I'd love to see something like that. That would be pretty special, to be honest with you. But so we don't really know if Wins is going to play. Is that what we're saying? Phase kind of doesn't know.
It's more to do with the fact that there's a lot of factors that go into, especially with someone of his caliber. He can do really well in other games as well. And it's like, realistically, you really have to look at it after yourself. At the moment, Diabotical is a new game. The test tournament series, it doesn't have the biggest prize pool, as you know. So if you do want to put your time into playing the game, you also want to make sure that you're not putting yourself and your family kind of behind. So it's the commitment is very hard sometimes, and that's why you have sometimes people working, a job and playing at the same time. It doesn't happen just in this esport; it happens in the other scenes too. So it's not probably the best path to take if you're around Wins' age. He's around 30, I think now, 32, 33 maybe. Him fully committing to Diabotical probably wouldn't be the smartest decision. Guys like me and Steej probably can. We're still pretty young.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone in Australia just does it as a hobby. We can't make a living, so we're not too worried. But yeah, guys like that who do make a living off esports, they really have to choose wisely because it is a big commitment and it's their career.
And you know, that's I'm not gonna be putting words into Wins's mouth. It's just purely what I think, and I think if that's his decision, then it's a decision that will benefit him and his family, and ultimately that's what you have to take care of. That's number one priority.
Even so, he could probably still play as a hobby, right, and still probably be.
I mean, dude,
top,
like he
top
he
place
he
in-
would disappear for a year. He would come back. He would beat all those teams. No problem.
Jesus Christ.
I'm saying it right now. He wouldn't be playing for the next 2 years. He would come back with someone. He would beat that team.
What about QPL players? Do you think any of them are going to move over? Any of the Quake players interested?
I don't think they're interested. There a lot of those QPL players are solely duel players, and if they do want to play a duel game, realistically, Quake is more than enough for them. I would say when it comes to prize pools, when it comes to them already understanding the maps, already understanding the champions, them transferring to a game like Diabotical would be a huge risk, I think.
Well, without
More than
guaranteed
anything.
money, surely. Like,
Maybe not even the money wise, but if you are really good in QPL, imagine coming to Diabotical, making that move. That look, I feel confident being the top player in Diabotical, and then not performing well. Where you already have that position in Quake Pro League, where you can't be really kicked out of the league, and you have always every week you have guaranteed money. Where in Diabotical, if they perform worse, that could be it.
Well, what about Team Liquid? You know, they're obviously Rafa Dehang still in the QPL, still playing, but they're also going to be competing in this. How come there's not many Europeans that are doing the same thing? That, you know, a lot of the duelers we don't see forming teams.
I think you will be in for surprises. There is going to be a QPL team forming.
Okay.
There you
Europe.
go. I thought there had to be.
Well,
might-
interestingly, Cypher's dueling, isn't he? Somewhat in Diabotical. He's dipping
Oh
in
no,
and out.
Cypher did say that he is probably not going to be competing in Diabotical Duel, but he might be competing in team modes with a formed team from QPL players.
Avic. Cypher Avic. It's got to be.
Damn.
No,
Oh,
Look at this.
damn.
that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
With his nice quality webcam or camera, even giving the little cheeky wink to the
That's
camera.
all I'm going to say. Cypher's going to be probably competing. He might be qualifying this upcoming weekend on Saturday. With whom? Well, you'll have to find out on Saturday at /Diabotical.
Wow, that link
No,
is seamless.
Oh, actually, no.
There's no official stream.
There's no official stream.
It's
So gonna be on-
twitch.tv/TimConLAN.
It's going to
Yes.
be TimConLAN.
Oh,
And you can find that Twitch link just in the little lovely overlay
Yeah.
that someone very handsome made.
gonna put it in the chat.
Patreon.com/. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I quite like that the EU stuff's a little bit mysterious because, yeah, I noticed in OS and NA a lot of the stuff scrims,
Very transparent.
out in public. Which is great because we get to see Phaze go fucking mental when you guys don't back him up at red, and we also get to see Phaze not listen to you, Steej, when you tell him when items are up, and he just runs straight past them, which is also my second favourite thing about watching you guys. What can you tell us about Phaze? How's he been getting on since coming back to? Well, basically competing again. Is he up for it? Is he up for teams more than duel? What can you tell us about young Phaze?
I think everyone's enjoying the team modes more than Duel at the moment.
Oh wow.
He obviously wasn't enjoying Quake Champions, same as Kama. So they played early on, but they didn't hang around. And I think they really enjoy this a bit more. And it's sort of close to home, kind of like similar to Quake Live, which they played for years. So they've actually been playing quite a bit, almost every day. And I think they want to, try to take it a bit seriously, see how good we can do overseas.
Sorry.
Look at this.
What? There we go, mate.
Dude, I'm fucking hungry.
Isn't it morning?
No, it's
dude, it's
afternoon for us.
20 to 4,
Two chicken
mate.
breasts, mashed potatoes, and a salad.
Did you just order that in, or
Room
is
service.
yeah? I was gonna say, is
Some of us certainly have a liquid lunch.
We
you
cooked
know?
it earlier.
I was gonna say the missus has brought that up. It's fantastic. Oh, I wolfed down a bit of food before going live here. I was all stressed. I needed chokes and everything.
My mum's calling me, boys. This is a fucking...
Get her on the
Hold up.
podcast.
Get her on.
Hello, mother.
This is
Yep.
looking
Anyway,
fucking good.
I got some questions for Phaze. What do you think of the current Duel maps? We've spoken about team modes. What do you think about? I know your thoughts sort of on Duel in general, but I just want to hear the
Yeah.
maps first.
Which map? Give me the map and
Just all of them. What do you think? Are they good enough? What ones do you think are good enough?
What do you think
Which
about
ones do you hate?
What do you think about Casbar, Phase? He's just gonna start
No
eating.
comment.
No.
They're all
well,
shit.
let me begin. Probably, I'm gonna go with the best one for me, to the worst one, and explain the reason why. I think
we
Bioplan
go.
for me would be the best map. As you can probably see me on stream or when I compete, I usually pick that map. Is the map that I have the most experience on, and the reason why I like it so much. There's so many pincer angles that you can abuse versus players, and especially in Europe, if you can compare European players versus NA players, the one thing you will see in Europe is double peeking, triple peeking. People are so fucking dumb in EU that they will always double peek even when they have 10 health. In NA,
You're not talking about Karvik, are you?
I don't know who I'm talking about, but in NA, the players are usually a lot more smarter. The mechanics are not as good as the EU players, but
a bit more discipline, yeah.
they're way more disciplined when it comes to that, and they know as soon as they double peek against a player like the Hang or Rafa, especially the Hang always waits for that double peek. He's like, "Go on, peek me again," and you can always see it on his stream. He always says that every single time he's got a fight with someone with Railgun or Pincer. So that's why I like Bioplan. It's so abusable because everybody wants to double peek you, and you've probably seen some of my duels before. I can hit with Pincer, and I will hit those pincers that I need to hit, and it's fun because I can easily win that map. Especially, I think I was playing versus Pavel. In the what was the?
I think
was
that's
it
the one you
Jukes duel?
demolished him on. Yeah, that was one that you really...
I think it was
yeah.
a 10-0 in like 4 minutes or 3 minutes, something like that. And he just kept on repeaking every single time. He would repeak, and once he started doing it after 2 frags, I was like, he's gonna carry on. He's tilted. He will carry on repeaking those angles, and I can just stand there with a pincer, and there's nothing he can do because I got the control over the entire map. So I'm getting from spawn to spawn, just pincering him.
It is a very pincer heavy map,
yeah.
especially since you can get it off spawn, you know what I mean? So you pretty much always have it. So if you're a really good pincer player, yeah, you can do some damage on that.
And then the next map, I would probably say that I like. Hello. What are the maps? I'm kind of forgetting.
Skybreak, Bioplant, Frontier, Casbah, and Perilous.
Perilous.
Okay, I would say even though I'm kind of happy with the layout of Perilous, there are some areas that I do not like.
Red
as
shit.
much.
The map's good.
I think the red area is a little bit too much of an RNG fest most of the time, especially with rockets and people rocket jumping into your face and you not being able to do anything with it. So I would 100% redesign that area, make it different, or even potentially remove that area and move it somewhere else on the map. But nonetheless, I do perform well on them. I think it's the fact that I can play 2 or 3 different playstyles. If I really need to play plus back and make sure that I wait for that one moment, even if it's like, I think I was playing versus Firebug, I think it was like 6-1 for him. And I was waiting for that one moment. I was playing like a rat. I was like plus backing the whole time throughout the map, not having any items. And there was that one little gap between Mega and Red where he had to leave Red and go for the Mega. I took the Red, I took the Yellow, and that's where I was getting back into the match. I think I got 3 or 4 frags in front of myself. I think it was like 6-4. And then it just came down to a Mega fight. I lost it. But I think that map really allows you to play different styles and do well at them at the same time. So if you can mix it up, it's a good map. And then I would say Skybreak. Skybreak is another one of those maps that is
I bloody love
But-
Skybreak. You know
yeah,
what? I bloody love it.
I start every day with a duel on Skybreak,
Oh.
and it's doing me no good, let me tell you, because either you win or you lose, and the
Harshly.
score's going to be 15-0 either way.
Yeah. But one of the reasons why I like it is because I'm shit at it.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
there is something that I know I can improve on, and that's what I've been trying to do. It's a great map if you can use your rockets well. It can be pincer heavy if you allow for it to be. There's so many little angles and corners that you can hide behind that. If you know you're playing against pincer heavy player, and that I think it happened versus when Agent played versus Kavik, where Kavik was trying to look for those angles, Agent wouldn't give it to him. He would just be hiding around the corner, just waiting for Kavik to push in with nothing essentially, and I think that's how I have to play Skybreak myself. I'm not sure if you're gonna agree on that, Steej, but I think it's a super rocket heavy map.
I
If you can make
hate,
it to be.
it is the super heavy rocket map, but that's because you know, even though it's a figure of 8, you're only using one route, and that's the blue and the yellow route because it's shorter and it has more on the way. No one ever uses the other route because it's just shit. It's the longest route and it has the least there, and you can't deny armors or anything. So that I hate that area of it, and it makes it so you're always running into each other through those doors because that's the only viable way. So you often like headbutting people when it's those really weird rocket fights.
Yeah.
I think the new changes are great. I would change rockets with the grenade launcher. I don't like the rockets in the middle there because quite often you're stuck behind there with, you know, a smoke weevil, plasma, and grenades. And it's like, yeah, the rocket can be up there and you can get that, but they have a chance to go for a pincer. So it's not. It's a good trade, I think. Like you're not getting it for free necessarily.
No.
But yeah, that's one of my most hated maps.
One of your most
But I think-
hated, is it? Skybreak.
Yeah, probably Frontier and then Skybreak. I don't like Frontier as well. I think that's quite.
Frontiers
rough.
are best.
Oh, I will not have any positive Frontier chat
And then I
on my
like
chat on my
Casper.
show.
I didn't like Casper, but it's sort of grown on me. I don't mind it.
I'll agree with Steej on that one. It also grew on me.
No, you hated
Yeah.
Casper.
I think I
What's
hated
happened?
it until I started playing versus Agent on it.
You obviously won a couple of games on it. That's why.
No. I was actually getting my ass kicked by Agent on it beforehand, before the tournament. And I've noticed that the kind of little pattern that he does with how he cycles the items and how he positions himself around the map. And once you start doing exactly what he's doing, is the flow and where you're pushing your enemy to be because of the items that you've been taking, it becomes so apparent that you can really be control freak on the map. So Agent, being the control freak that he is when it comes to items, it's his best map. And we've been playing a little bit I think in queues. I met him there a couple of times. We haven't really practiced together. And it came to the tournament day. I was getting beaten by like 10-0, sometimes 12-0. Comes the tournament day, I lost on that map by one frag. It was 3-2.
Oh man.
And it's like once you start exploring different regions of the map, different routes, different strategies that you can punish players and you can take the control over the map, it becomes a lot more fun. And I think being probably the biggest map in the pool at the moment, because of how horizontal and vertical the map is, it allows a lot more to do that. And I think I value control heavy playstyle rather than just pushing into people.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's quite a rewarding map actually, especially when you can do really good damage on the blues and abuse that. So the more I play it, the more.
I just
yeah,
want to
it's
ask
grown on me.
about because obviously, right, GMT and I, right, we like a duel. We love a duel.
We like a duel.
but
Well,
we're...
not anymore. I've
No.
banned myself from duel.
No, you're on a meditation break because you got
I'm
a
on a
bit tilted.
sabbatical.
Yeah, but you'll be
Yeah.
back stronger. Obviously, we're nowhere near as good as you guys and
Excuse me?
tons of other people as well. My biggest problem with Casper, I actually quite like the map layout and stuff, but I do have a big problem with like the mega health area in general because a lot of my games just devolve into like a big rocket gambly fight in there. I'd love to see that little area changed. I wanted to ask some players that actually knew what the fuck they were talking about that specific spot because I do find myself just, whether I'm larger stack or not, it's just a big gambly rocket fight in that area and I can't bloody stand it. So set me straight. What am I doing wrong? Or am I right? Is that little bit?
That's how Quakes and these types of games have always been. You know, usually even like in this game, most of the major items aren't even death traps in comparison to other maps in previous Quakes. So with those items being in those rough situations, you sort of just can't commit 100%, especially if they're early. You're either there early and you're bullying them off it, pushing them off early, or you just let them have it and deal damage. You know, it's not worth getting into those scrappy fights. I think it's just better off to just leave it, do damage on it.
No, I have the similar idea, but I do like to play that kind of playstyle where I'm forcing my enemy to think that nobody's there to take the item, and I position myself in a way that they're dropped down, especially on Casbah.
Yeah.
And you will always know that there's, especially on Mega, there's a drop down that you can take. I don't know what part of the map that's called. Right above Mega, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
you can drop down.
The spam place there.
And usually a good player that likes to control the map and doesn't want to be taking too much damage himself will be standing on that position, and he will make sure that there's nobody there before he takes it. So I always like to stand a little bit further to the back where even if he looks down, he can't see me. And then people take the bait. They always take the fucking bait and they drop down, and you can do so much on return damage and then escape to red and get the armor straight away. It's great.
Very ratty playstyle of you, Phaze. Well, I'll be borrowing that.
I'm proud of it.
Very much. And yeah, so if we run down the other, was it Frontiers, the other map as well? What do we think about that? Because I hate it.
I'll leave you out to teach right now because I've been talking too much.
Frontier. I don't like the rotates. You know, unless you got the rotation where it's red into Mega, it can be quite awful rotating from Mega up to red. It's, you know, you either take the long teleport route and then you get spammed out through the TP, or you take that horrible path below and try to go up the jump pad, you just get smashed. The terrain is also fucking awful to play on. I don't know how many rocket fights you've had on that terrain where it's just
too many.
Terrible. I don't know. It's quite a rough map, especially if they control the rail really well. You can get demolished on that. But that's my least favorite map, purely because it's not nice to run around, and it's not, a lot of the fights are just really sloppy, and that's due to just the terrain and how the map is in general. I hate it.
So I'm aware that there's a rework of that map out there in the Nether region somewhere. I've not seen it myself, but I know it's being addressed from what I can tell. But be interesting to see. Obviously, I know there's a mapping contest going on with Napalm and Stickflip and those guys. So I would like to see. I'd be very interested to see what some of these new maps will come out.
Have you seen the guy? It's Fabrice. That guy mapping.
Opia,
That guy makes some fucking insane shit. I
He
like
does. We kind of like, especially me. I've kind of worked with the guy before on some duel maps. And the thing is about Fabrice, or some of you may know him as Opia. He's a great mapper. Mapper. I should kind of rephrase it. He's a great artist. He can make things out of nothing. He's very creative. The biggest issue I think with Fabrice is, even though he does great art, he struggles with the layout of the maps and some of the gimmicks that he introduces. For example, he's been making the new map. I think it's called Ancient, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. And one of the biggest parts of the map, where you had the most items, has the void in it. And a lot of competitive players will agree. I'm not sure if you will agree, Steej. Having a void in the map that you can literally just follow by making one wrong step, and like half of the map is void, it doesn't really feel competitive. It becomes extremely RNG with what the situations are going to be happening over there. And you never really want to be... You don't want to introduce that factor into arena FPS game. Because then it becomes... in a way, and that's my own opinion, it becomes kind of quick champions-like, where you have so many different abilities that can be...
That's a banned word. That's a banned term on the show, Phaze.
It's fine. We can talk about all the games. Why not? It's good. It's good to look at everything, and you know, I'm not gonna say that Quake didn't do anything right, because they did a lot of things in the right way, but at the same time, I don't agree with the void usage, and I think Fabrice does like to use voids a lot, and some of those gimmicks perhaps don't benefit the competitive.
Yeah, look, I'm not a fan of that stuff either. You know, you've played Awoken.
I think Awoken is one of those maps where I accept it. I'm like, fuck it, let it be, because it's funny.
It's only on the outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know they have a new map where they have it as well. A little void for the Mega. It's funny because you don't think, even though you're so aware of it, and top players are so good with their movement and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
one stray rocket and you're
You're out.
fucked. You know what I mean? And you
Bye-bye.
could be like full stack, and it's just that can change. Like dying for free in a top level game for something like that is, it can
Silly.
almost lose your games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially with the rocket bounces in this game, sometimes that's that's going to
But-
lead to a lot of tilt.
But as you mentioned, Fabrice, I would say that he needs people to test his maps and be honest with him. That's the one thing I would say. People have to be honest with their feedback. If the map is shit, tell the person that the map is shit. You don't have to give them candy and then tell them, oh, it could be better. Just let them know exactly what is wrong with it, what you think is wrong with it. Let them get more opinions, so it's not just you, it's not just one player, not two players. Because you don't want to be getting your feedback just from the one person, because they could be wrong. Anybody could be wrong. But as soon as there is more people telling you the exact same thing, maybe it's worth looking into it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on his stream and he's quite open. He's quite aware that he's
Yeah.
not the top level jeweler. So he sometimes asks me questions about what I think about things. So yeah, he's definitely, I think his attitude and his awareness of making maps is really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about like the current? I'll call it like the state of Duel, right? So obviously, Steej, I know you played a hell of a lot of Quake Champions. I know you played a bit of Quake Live. Obviously, this game's a lot more Quake Live-esque than Quake Champions. What do you think are some of the good things about dueling in this game as compared to the previous titles and stuff? And what do we think is wrong or could be improved, should I say? Maybe not talking about the map so much, because obviously the maps, I think it's no question the maps will just get better as the community get their hands on the right tools. But what do we think about the current, the actual nuts and bolts of Duel in this game? What could be better? What's good? What do we reckon?
I think it's improved, especially with the yellow armor change. I think that's definitely much needed. It helps you control the map a lot more. You think it's 75 armor, but it's you're taking 75 off them, and you're gaining probably 25. So it's 100 difference. And a lot of the times when you couldn't deny that yellow, you had to go back for your red or whatnot. They take it for free, and then you pretty much be even stacked. So it made it a lot more random. And I think now you can almost never not deny a yellow. And even if you do, it's one rocket, you're not losing your mega health over it, rocketing yourself 3 times. So that is honestly improved it tremendously. I think we just need better maps, honestly. I think it's a lot of people tend to be bored with the Duel. I don't know if that's because it's the same as Quake Live and people have played it so much. I personally think it's a map problem. But I am enjoying it, probably not as much as I thought I would. But I think it'll be improved in future. I know James is obviously not focused on it too much right now, so
I would kind of add to that and say, I think my biggest, not concern per se, but to kind of relate to what Siege was saying, that he didn't enjoy it as much as he thought he would. I think a lot of it could be down to the art styles at the moment. I think there is, in a way, if you look at all the maps, they share similar art style when it comes to between different game modes, right? You have Wipeout, you have Extinction. I think the Extinction is the only one that is different because it has a snow map. I don't think any other map in the game currently resembles that. I think that's what makes it really stand out that much, and that's why a lot of people play it. When it comes to like dual maps, you kind of become fatigued. Your eyes becomes fatigued after a while of playing it, and that way you don't really want to carry on playing the same maps over and over again. So you go into different modes or you don't play. And maybe per se, it's maybe not so much with it being played the same as Quake Life, because it essentially is. It's the same kind of principle, but I think, I'm not saying either that the art style is bad. The art style is great on all the maps, but it's repeated. And I think the more assets the game is going to get, the better everything is going to be looking, and the more I think enjoyable it's going to be for the people, even though it already is super enjoyable in my opinion. But I do get fatigued, and sometimes I just don't want to play specific dual map. Like for example, Perilous, great map, great layout, but the color scheme on that map is it's too dark. It's too
Bit dark
it's too
corridor.
Quake 1 like. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but that's my personal opinion.
I think as well, where if there's one or two maps that you're just really not keen on playing, if you're just never voting for those maps, you know, as you're queuing, let's say you're not just you guys or, you know, anyone like GMT and I, for example, when I play, I never vote Frontier. Like, I never want to see it ever. I very rarely vote Casbah, for example. So I'm literally playing on like 3 maps only, or 3 or 4 or whatever.
So it seems like you're voting for the colorful maps.
Well, yeah, not only that, I kind of share my same opinion as Steej with the terrain and stuff on Frontier is kind of brutal, and someone like me is obviously trying to improve. When I'm getting smashed in by someone way better than me, Frontier is not the place I want to do it on because I feel like I have no chance of coming back. But what about Phaze? I know you and I have spoken about the some of the other changes, right? So like the lack of utility on like the shaft, for example, like the very weak pushback, and it's only when you're airborne as well. Because basically a friend of mine, when we first started playing this game, kind of together, we'd been watching Quake Live. We weren't players or anything, but one thing we noticed straight away from Duel, and this probably happens more in GMT and I's level of duels, is that the fights tend to be really messy, as opposed to what we've watched on Quake Live from the top players. It seems to be 2 giant egg bots fucking running into each other with rockets out and stuff. Like, even in the top level, like you watch Carwick just run through people and stuff. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of danger when it comes to pushing around a corner and stuff. And what do you think of that? Do you think that's a positive thing to see more aggression in Duel and see more frags, or are we missing a little bit of the cerebralness of Quake Live that we all kind of love to watch back on now? What do we reckon?
I mean, and again, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna keep saying it because I don't want it to influence people's opinions on the game. Now, this is just my opinion, but I would like to see more knockback on the shaft, purely because I'm a player that did enjoy playing Quake Live. So that goes back to my own bias of how I feel certain weapons should be balanced. In my head, if somebody is rocket jumping towards me or dropping on me, if I have the right weapon out in that situation, I have the bigger stack and the enemy doesn't, and they still decide to drop, I should be able to punish them. Right now, I feel like you can't punish anybody. People will be in your face, and as long as you don't turn into playing like Agent, which is just rockets and just standing in the corners, there's not much you can do about it. So I think yes, I think Shaft should be getting a knockback. I would like to see it getting more knockback when it comes to the floor knockback. So when you're walking towards the enemy, because at the moment people can still walk towards you, shoot you with the rockets, and completely throw your aim away. You should be able to pin them higher in the air. There should be air knockback increasement, in my opinion. I think shotgun should be also getting some knockback.
Ooh,
in fact,
it's an interesting one.
Because you like, if you don't have a shaft, then again you will be getting pushed around on the map a lot. So having at least 2 weapons that can punish the player pushing towards you would be great. I think it would improve Duel a lot more. I think you would see a lot. The thing is, with what you said that in a way it became a lot about being aggressive. But I think the game will still remain aggressive because there is a golden egg or golden frag, golden fucking egg.
Golden egg's a better one.
egg.
That's a great way of putting it.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
This is exactly what was happening 2 days ago when we were casting with GMT. I was talking about limes. I was talking about McMuffins. I was talking about secret sauce, and now I'm talking about.
That way you got the flick.
It keeps following me everywhere. But yeah, I think because you have the golden frag mechanic, the game will remain aggressive. You will always have that player in the backfield that will have to advance towards. It's just, are you going to be taking smart fights, or are you going to be running around like a dumb idiot everywhere with a rocket and just hoping that you will hit everything? And I'm not trying to offend anybody who does that. It's more to do with the fact on a higher level.
Kind of favours the person with golden frag, which I guess they've earned that right, because they've got to the golden frag first. But it becomes a bit tricky if it's a close match and you're both on golden frag and you're out of control and the other guy has pretty much full license to push you aggro all the time. There's not really currently a really effective and obvious way to defend yourself apart from just running.
Yeah, I would go to the extent of saying if you are both on golden frag, don't ever have a rocket fight.
No.
Don't ever have that, because that's going to be an RNG fest of who's going to get that frag.
Yeah.
If you're versing Rafa, you'd probably take it though.
No, if you're Rafa, you take everything.
I'd take a 50-50 with Rafa.
Yeah.
But no, I do agree with the rocket fights can be a bit sloppy. I don't know if it's people getting used to the game and trying to, properly defend versus some attacks. Maybe they're not as clinical. But it definitely does seem hard, especially when they're jumping at you. If you miss one rocket or something like that, you can get demolished. People tend to get right in your face with the rocket fights. And there's not much you can do. I honestly don't mind the knockback. I don't really notice it that much. I would be okay with additional knockback. But yeah, rocket fights are just, they've improved. I think he's toned down the bounce, if I'm not mistaken, which has helped. But yeah, they seem to be a bit RNG at the moment.
But yeah, that's just what my point was. Like when I go back and watch, Quake Live tournaments and stuff, you never see those. Maybe it's because I'm watching, the apex of the game at that point, right? I'm watching the best players, but you never see those guy charging round corner, just rocketing repeatedly. Like there's a lot more positional play, and I wonder. Maybe it's not even a question of weapon balance. Maybe it's just the way. It's just it's just a different game at the end of the day. So
that's exactly what I was about to say. Is like maybe it's just like I have that thought in my mind that I should be playing Quake Live, but we're not playing Quake Live. This is Diabotical. This is a completely new game. If I'm not able to adjust to that, that's my own fault. Yeah. So I have to work on that to fix it rather than the game fixing it for me, because you can't really expect the developers to listen to you, and just because you're a pro player, it doesn't mean you should be listened to. It doesn't mean that you're always correct. And I think even though I don't agree with some of the weapon balance currently happening, if it's gonna be beneficial to new players, so be it. I'll adjust.
What do you reckon, GMT? Like at our sort of mid range, like. You must have duelled in either Quake Live or Quake Champions a fair bit. Like, what do you reckon about Diabotical as a lower ranked player? I get really tilted by the gambly fights purely because my rockets are terrible as well. So that does add to my frustration. But
I try and be humble about it, and I try and say, you know what, at our level, you can probably play any stuff. The game design doesn't really matter. If you had skills in any one weapon, you'd be able to excel with it. But at the same time, I do find myself occasionally a little bit frustrated by the strength of rockets. And it's interesting, right? Because we have such a storied and long-standing genre that has certain trope and certain expectations. And, it's hard to accept sometimes that you've got to change. Because we've all been here, apart from Jake, for 10 plus years. And we've gone into certain fights with certain weapons and expect to come out a certain way. But I think that all makes it very hard to be objective about. It's really hard to actually say, I have this opinion and there's good reason for it, because there's 9 reasons, if not 10, that you should doubt yourself and think, no, the game is the game. I have to adapt.
Yeah. And I would like to say,
Oh, the polite standoff. Who's going to interrupt the other? Go on, Phaze. You are the special guest. We'll have GMT on every week, as long as he's awake. Oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway, well, the other thing I was gonna say as well is like, I think there's a philosophy shift in Duel as well. So again, from the limited stuff I watched of Quake Live before playing this game for the first time, like it was very obvious that like it's very simple. The Pac-Man style seems to be like a really strong style, right, in QL, unless I'm mistaken. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. And you see that with Agent now. Like Agent literally just, his timing's impeccable, even when he's out of control. I think I even joked once, GMT, when you and I were watching a game together, like Agent found himself out of control, which is obviously not very common. And I was like, well, I'd love to see how he's going to get back in control. And all he did was just out-time the other guy. Like, he just paced.
He just turned up, didn't
he just turned up first to the item, picked it up and just ran away. And then suddenly was 200 eventually and just won. But obviously, since I've been on my quest, my personal quest to try and get averagely good at this game, when I started talking to your mate, Steej, Mr. Foe Danny, he was explaining to me that, like, this game, in his opinion, and I might be wrong, and I think a lot of the guys in Australia share this, I know Phaze and Kama do, that, like, damage in this game is like the premium currency. Like, dealing damage as often as possible is almost like more important than items. You're seeing guys leave items up, you're seeing guys push in to get free damage all the time, and I think the pace of the game is so much quicker because of the dash and just generally strafe jumping, and I think in general you can get a little bit, and the maps are quite small as well. And I've been seeing good improvements in my own game, literally knowing when to be aggressive, and actually leaving items up behind me. I'm going to deal some damage, I'm going to take some trade and go back and get the items. And at my sort of level, that style really fucking works, because everyone's just camping on an item, crouched, and I'm just above them hitting rockets, and then I can go back and get the yellow or whatever. What do you think on that? It's like a philosophy shift, in my opinion.
There's a few reasons why I think that is the case in this game. Obviously, golden frag's one. You want to be further ahead. You don't want to, you're not comfortable with just a one frag lead, like you could get away with in a 10-minute time limit and just run it down. You play that sort of style. You actually have to get that last frag. So I think that plays a part into it. And also the fact that you need to deny armors, you want to take damage to be able to deny them. So, you want to push in, even if it's unfavorable. If you're doing 50 damage and he's doing 100, but you're collecting the item, that's really what you want to be doing, rather than, not being able to deny that armor at all. You need to take damage at the right times. So after you've collected your cycle, you really need to push in hard, even if it's unfavorable. That's the way I think is best to play this. Whereas in Quake Live, you could just cycle the map and wait for them to make a mistake. Where in this, they'll stack up if you're not doing that poke damage.
Mm-hmm. What do you reckon, Phaze? Have you seen a slight change in playstyle in this region? Because I see it a lot. Again, in the trouble with Australia is that there's only a few of you that are actually top players, I think, and you do struggle to find scrim partners, I think, in Duel. So, like, when I watch you guys stream, it's like, if it's against kind of like a tier below, like they're quite one-sided matches, but obviously all the principles are the same, right? But obviously in EU is a lot more competitive. So you see, like, Agent is obviously probably number one in Europe. I don't think there's any question with that, but he doesn't seem to play that super aggro, I'm going to just be in your face doing damage. He still seems to be heavily item focused. You frequently see him just sitting on red and mega waiting for it to come up. So what do you reckon, Phaze? Like, do you think Agent style is currently the best just because he's got a grip on it first, or
No.
you think that's punishable?
I think it's not the best style at the moment. But the reason why I'm saying that is because people can't play that style. It's very hard to play the way he plays. That's why I would suggest people not to play that style unless they want to spend hours and hours every fucking day just perfecting it. He perfected it throughout Quake Live. So trying to mimic that as a higher end player, or even a newer player, is a mistake in my opinion. It's great to go for the items and control them well, but as Steej was saying, it's so important to make damage at all times. It's even something Rafa, when I used to play Quake Champions, I was speaking to Rafa a little bit about it because I was trying to get the understanding of why he does so well, even when he doesn't have the control over the map and the stack. Chip damage. Constant chip damage, constant pressure on the enemy can go a long way, even if you're not getting the frag. Even if you're not getting the frag for the next 3 to 5 minutes. As long as you keep doing that chip damage and the pressure, it keeps the enemy on their toes all the time. And there will be a moment where all that chip damage and the pressure has gone to, in your favor. And then you take that moment and you go from that moment. So yeah, I think Agent should carry on playing that way because it's working very well, especially with his aim. I'm not gonna be here kidding around. Agent's aim is not the best, and that's actually a really good thing for arena FPS and for people that are new to the genre. You don't have to have an amazing aim to be winning games. But then again, you have to find your own playstyle. You have to find what works for you, and utilize it to your best ability. Yes, you can pick some things from players, but it's also good to understand your strengths and weaknesses and making sure that you play around them rather than trying to mimic what other people do. Because Agent times 4 items. He can time 4 to 5 items at the same time. And then he will create such a cycle where you won't be able to break it. And often what you see happen, if you break the cycle from Agent, he crumbles. He doesn't have the capacity to bring it in back. He cannot really fight very well for the items if you break that cycle. So the one thing that players should be doing right now to Agent is trying to break the cycle and then having the control over the map, because then it's a win. I mean, the one map that I won versus Agent in that tournament that I keep talking about wasn't Bioplan. I broke that initial control of him, and then I won it.
It's that classic Russian style.
Yeah, it all came from Cooler. Cooler
Exactly.
was the creator of that style, and I think Agent actually plays it a little bit better than Cooler right now.
He's for sure like the early, I'd say probably the early number 1 dueler in the game currently. Obviously, we've not had any international competition or anything like that, but he's consistently winning and winning pretty hard. Although Karvik even did take it quite close the other weekend. I was going to say it's probably honestly good to have like these discussions about the stylistic choices of Duel. I think it's good for the game to have different. To have different styles. If everyone just played the same way and it was the correct way,
Would it be fucking boring?
would be fucking boring. Absolutely.
Just like yesterday's tournament at the end. No, I'm kidding. I'm just giving some slack to Team Liquid, because you see Team Liquid winning everywhere, pretty much everywhere they go. Any game, it's usually Team Liquid being on top, and it's really nice to see players like Aimscams or Cybrain getting so close to winning against them. I mean, those guys, like I was saying before, they have world champions titles in so many games, and having new school players being able to beat them, I think that's a little bit more exciting. You've seen Rafa win so many times. Everybody here seen Rafa win, right? Everybody's seen the Hang win, and
Everyone loves an underdog story.
Yeah, underdog story is what really brings the excitement, because there's an amount of times, even in Dota, Team Secret keeps winning every tournament. And it's like, are you turning up to watch Team Secret win again? Not really. You're probably turning up to see if Team Secret can be beaten. So I think that's the way to look at it.
I'm quietly optimistic about this game's. Again, hopefully it continues to grow and stuff. But I'm quietly optimistic that this is the sort of game which we might see basically new S-tier pros emerge. So, because it's not associated with the Quake name, right? So I think even though it's a very Quake-esque game, obviously, because let's be honest, the next crop of pros isn't going to be guys like me who are fucking 28 who are just picking up the game and have taken an interest in it. It's going to be some like WizKid or GMT. Sorry, nah, you're not going to be a pro, but you'll be casting a pro, so it's fine. It's going to be these like WizKid 14, 15, 16-year-olds that might come across the game at some point, have no idea about the history of Quake, but they'll be good. Hopefully good Diabotical pro players. We saw the same in Counter-Strike when CSGO came out, and NIP were the dominant team because they were the best of Source and 1.6. Those guys, it's taken years, but those guys are nowhere near the top tier now. The top tier of CS, a lot of them are CSGO pros, not Counter-Strike Source or 1.6 pros. So that's I think that's a nice little bit of hope, hopefully, for the future of this game, because these Rafa, De Hang, etc. They can't keep going for the next 20 years. Like these new players have got to come from somewhere, and I'm kind of hoping because this game is a complete rebrand, if you will, of the Quake formula, then hopefully we will start to see little hidden gems pop up from all regions, particularly Europe. I think Europe in the CIS region in particular. Hell yeah. Obviously have a ton of players. I think they probably make up the most player base in the whole bloody game, to be honest with you. Don't destroy my hopes, someone said in chat. So that's my kind of quiet optimism about this game. I don't know about you guys. I think the fact that it's a Quake-like game, but it's not associated with the Quake brand, on the product, I think that can only help with new players.
That's interesting, right? It's a double-edged sword because you have less name recognition, absolutely, in terms of marketing the game. You don't have this intensely Googleable understanding of what is this and where does it come from. But then at the same time, you also have a lot less of a barrier to entry, I guess. People thinking, I haven't played Quake. Quake has been a thing for a long time. I'm not going to bother. I mean, you see it on all sorts of subreddit for all sorts of games. They're like, can I still get into this into X year? And it's like, well, yeah, of course. But for whatever reason, we have this idea that if something's so old, we just don't bother. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons, and you've got to be realistic about those. I think Diabotical, though, if it can sort of make that name known more widely, then we can start to see a serious benefit for it being abstracted from the Quake brand.
It sucks to me that, obviously, for many reasons, but the fact that we're currently operating in the COVID era where we can't have LANs, because I think you can create some buzz with like a good clip or two from like a LAN event. It could be a small venue. The crowd would have to be like white hot, but if you can create like hype moments from like a LAN tournament, that could really get people kind of checking the game out and stuff. But it does suck that we're kind of resigned to these online events where, to your best efforts, GMT, and you do a fine job, it is very hard to replicate, a live hype moment.
You talking shit, Jake?
Always.
You talking shit, mate?
It's constructive.
Oh.
You keep going.
As long as it's constructive, it's okay.
But we'll have to pipe in some fake crowd noises or something. I don't know.
Speaking of fake crowd noises, have you seen? Oh fuck it, I'm not gonna mention the company's name, but there was a live stream of the company, of a very big company that might have just got bought by somebody. They had people in the front row, shouting and yelling, and I think there was a backing track being played of people like being excited about a product being released, and then the fucking camera pans down and the rows, there's only the first row, only people in the first row were there was nobody behind them, and then you have that fucking like the track playing, and it's like, holy shit.
It's cringe, isn't it?
When you do that, at least don't point the camera down on the crowd. It's like, please don't.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
We start wrapping up now because we've been going an hour and 23 minutes. I do want to just pose to chat. I know there's a few of you here. If there's any questions for any of the lovely panelists, just at them in the chat and we'll get to them in a moment, just while we chat about some other things. So obviously next weekend is the EU team qualifiers. We've just mentioned some of their teams beforehand. I have absolutely no idea what to expect. Obviously, we only know of a few teams that are even going to be registered to it, but I assume there's going to be a lot more. We'd have no idea what the CIS regions are doing with their teams.
Nobody does.
No one. They're very secretive. I wonder if
they don't even know.
No, they'll probably just turn up on the day, mix teams, and just and win anyway.
So they're going to do a draft like they did at the Russian LAN. In fact, that's how all the LAN teams were decided. Yeah. At Factory Esports. They're just going to run with it. That's it.
Mate, you an absolute bloody soldier for casting that whole day, by the way, of like the Russian team.
2 days. 2 days. 12 hours each.
I know you did 2 days, but at least the first day was Duel, and that you can get behind that a bit more. But yeah, like a Russian draft team event for 12 hours, that's pretty rough.
I think that's a lot more fun than casting already pre-made team, actually. There's a lot of different things happening.
It was interesting because you were working out how does this team fit together and which player is going to do what, and that changed throughout the day. So yeah, there was a little bit of intrigue to it.
And I think I would give a massive shout out right out on stream to Trolls. Trollsy is one of the newcomers to Arena FPS, and that was his team that just won that factory LAN at in Russia, Diabotical factory LAN. So yeah, massive shout out to that guy, new guy, and he's already performing so well. So it's someone to look out for in team modes, I would say.
Yeah, I've seen his stream pop up every now and then. He usually does quite well in the Diabotical section. Steej, I know you guys with the Kowalski guys do draft team stuff. Have any young guns from down under caught your eye? Or are you going to be like, nah?
Yeah, there's when you think of new players, it's mainly their aim or their damage output that you're noticing. Quake's just such an experience-based game that it takes ages to actually reach that top level, especially if you're talking about dual team modes. I think is a little bit more friendly, and they can maybe stand out a bit more, which is good for Diabotical as well since they're focusing on it. But it's a boomer game, Most of the top players are just really old people because it's all experience.
Yeah.
So although there are players that are up and coming, I think it's going to take a few years before they actually reach that next level and start competing with the top guys.
Sure.
Fair enough. So that's no one is your answer there, basically. Not one name.
There's a couple in Australia, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. The only other bit I wanted to ask as well, I won't give an answer to this, but if we can go around the panel here, I want you guys to maybe give your top 3 or top 4 or 5 duelers that you've seen, like a power rankings. I bloody love stuff like that, like power rankings, power play, all that American shit. Phaze, let's start with you. From what you've seen, let's just pretend that everyone's in the same region, and in your head, X player could beat X player, right? So, for example, this NA guy could beat this EU guy. Have a little think. All of you have a little think, and I just want you to run down little brief description as to who you think would be number 1 and number 3 or number 5, however many you want to name.
I'm going to be controversial.
Oh, God, we'll go
Number 1.
GMT.
Okay.
Let's go GMT. I love a bit of controversy.
Ved Medic number 1.
I was about to say the same thing. Fuck you.
Dead Medic.
Ved Medic.
Cred Medic.
Ved Medic.
Bread Medic. Sorry.
Ed Medic.
It was a great meme in the chat last night. Everyone just,
Terrible.
just memeing on his name.
Yeah.
But so
Should be
Ved
ashamed.
Medic. Yeah, I know.
Number 1. Over Zoric War, over Agent, the winner of the
Yeah.
Test Series tournament.
Wow.
Just a monster in Duel. He doesn't even play. He had
Yeah,
like
he
4
doesn't
hours in Diabotical when he won that tournament. is so well.
Yeah, that's not correct.
But still,
Phase knows.
he doesn't play
I know,
like
I
Agent
know
plays.
because I practiced with him on stream.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
educate
yeah.
me, who doesn't know much about. Has he got pedigree in previous titles? I would presume.
Nope.
Oh,
I think he's a CPM player, to be honest.
I don't even know where the medic really came from. I
He
think
came
he
from
Appeared.
Wow,
CPM
okay.
player, and then he played in Quake Champs.
Yeah, he did Quake Champions really well with Saigib. I think it was Saigib or no Yenem. He played with Yenem in 2v2s. They did really well, like extremely well as a team, and now they're back as a team again.
That dude,
and-
so sick.
yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
scary.
he's obviously shined as a jeweler as well as obviously his team performing
Stand.
very well. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I know he won that duel tournament, which kind of didn't he beat Ball in for life in the final? Who probably
Yeah.
tilted off the face of the earth mid duel. But no, I do love
Yeah.
Ball. He's a nice guy.
Beatball and now Zoric War did win the test tournament, whereas
Yes.
Vedmedic won the Jutes tournament. Vedmedic, though, I just think that mechanical skill, it forgives so many issues with your control. And his control's pretty solid as well. Whereas Zoric War is the big brain player that I think we all want to be the best. But I don't know. I mean, just he's slightly less impressive to watch, but he is my favorite player. So I would love to see those two go at it fairly soon.
We'll ask Zoric Ward to come on the show when he buys a new microphone, because I'd like to chat to him as well. But his microphone does suck, so I'm just going to say that. So Vedmedic, I mean, I've checked out his stream, yeah, and he's. I know James pretty much called him a shaft wanker on stream last night, but his shaft is really, really good.
He is a shaft wanker, and let's
Yeah.
not be wrong. A lot of people that
Yeah.
use shaft are shaft wankers. That's
They're
it.
shaft wankers, though, and then there's people that win while being shaft wank, and there is a difference.
Nonetheless, yeah, Vedmedic is probably one, if not, I would go as far as saying the most talented NA player that came out in the last 10 years.
Wow. Well, that's
sure.
someone I didn't even consider. That's great. This is exactly why I wanted to do this. GMT, a couple more from you. Who would you say has impressed you then? If you're doing like a rankings, because we'll
of
do this. We'll
course,
do this week
Agent.
to week. You know, we'll do this week to week. There'll be different things that will pop up to Agent.
It's got to be Agent. I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said already? He's won everything he's entered, and I do mean everything. Every single tournament that boy has entered, he has won. His timing's impeccable. His control's impeccable. For whatever reason, everyone versus him just seems to play worse, which I can only say is to his credit.
Yeah, he probably has that presence, you know?
Yeah, I think, and even when people are winning versus him, it's like they don't believe it. It's like 2-0, Karvik gets reverse swept. Agent was just like, no. We can create some excitement, but this is my tournament at the end of the day. Karvik would have to be up there. I mean, I think there's something that looks so unsustainable about his style. Yes, he hits crazy shots. Yes, his aggression works, but you just sort of feel as the game matures, he's going to get phased out, which is why I think he's maybe a little bit less impressive. I still like the really consistent players like Firebot, honestly. Firebot's a joy to watch for me because I feel like he has a style that we as lower level duelers should all be trying to emulate. So he's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to tell someone brand new to watch Karvik and play like that, are you? It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, Firebot's kind of like the polar opposite of that, I suppose. And, yeah, and Karvik obviously has done really well at these events and stuff, but he, yeah, definitely looks like he has like a flaw that will be exploited at some point, for sure. Throwing it back to you, Phaze. So you were going to say Vedmedic as well. Wow.
Yeah, Vedmedic for me is the top one. In if he practices, I don't think anybody's going to be able to take it away from him.
So you'd think he'd be able to take it to Agent if they were able to LAN?
Without an issue.
Oh my!
If Rafa started practicing in the Diabotical duel, he would lose to Vedmedic.
Jesus. There we go. That's
I'm gonna go with the bold statement. Why not? Why not go with the bold statement at the end of the show? I think it's very important to make sure that the players, and I hope that shouldn't be getting into anybody's head because that could be wrong at the same time. But also, if you do see the potential in a player, it's very important to make sure that they know. You should appreciate when you see a good player. It doesn't matter if you're friends or not. Mm-hmm. Just like anybody you may not be friends with. If they're a good player, they're a good player, and people should know about Vedmedic. I think he's extremely underrated, and people should give him a lot more attention. And I hope that Diabotical is going to give him that place where he really grows as a player.
And praise will mean more to a player like Vedmedic coming from other established players themselves. So there's probably no greater people to get praise from than your
GMT.
And GMT. Yep. Just let that float there for a minute. Phaze, who else have you got then? So Vedmedic, I'm assuming Agent's up there for you as well.
Well, from the current player pool,
yeah,
it would be definitely Agent on the second place.
I feel like Agent is there. He's there waiting to be dethroned. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's solid number one. Like I feel like someone can come in and smash him.
I think if we're doing it by global rankings, I would say on the second place would be Zorak and Agent. I would like to see those two play together.
That would be
see
great.
How their playstyle clashes because in a way it's very similar. So it would be interesting to see that matchup.
That's a bit of a dream matchup actually. Early on in this game.
But the third place obviously me. Not really. It's Firebot. I would say Firebot is definitely third place. If he does put the time into the game, he doesn't actually practice as much as many people might think. He has a job, so for him to practice is he might practice 2 to 3 hours a day probably, if I'm not mistaken. So there could be a massive improvement if he spends so much time as Agent does. I mean, Agent streams every day, he plays every day, so he's got all that practice done. And if you did compare the stats, and if you've given those stats to Firebot instead of Agent, I think Firebot would be potentially closing it to the top one easily.
A lot of love for Firebot. Super nice guy as well, by the way.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Good to hear that.
My coach, one of my coaches, along with Phaze.
Yeah, how that treating you, mate? As you got tilted into not playing the game. Anyway, Steej.
Yeah. That's exactly how it's going. I was tilting, and he tilts after me now.
This is always my favourite point, right, Steej? Because I've made some good friends in the Australian scene. Obviously, yourself being one of them, and I've chatted a lot to Danny and stuff. I love the fact that you guys are like way off in your own little world, right? But you clearly have some really fucking good players. And my favorite thing is when I'm watching a duel tournament and Danny pops up in my DMs and he goes, I could fucking smash this guy. Just get me over there. Like, I'm moving to EU. I'm going to smash. I love that attitude. I think that's great. So it's interesting that
Zanaku.
well, I mean, maybe Steej can share any information about Zanaku. I'm sure they've played in QC before. Zanaku's obviously made the actual life decision to move to a new continent. But I mean, he moved to EU, but he plays in NA if I'm not mistaken, which is a little bit strange. But Steej, your floor is yours. If you had to power rank the duelers you've seen so far from all regions, give us some thoughts.
Okay, obviously I'd go with Vedmedic as well. I think he has the most potential by far. Even players like Rafa have said, if this guy plays, he'll be deadly if you put more time into duel and whatnot. Obviously, he's got a lot of in real life stuff, being at college and whatnot. But his potential is probably the highest there is at the moment.
Is he a young guy, by the way? Sorry to jump in.
He's around our age, 22, 23, I think.
20 something, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And obviously you'd have to give it to Agent at the moment in Europe, just because he's been dominating. I would honestly put Australians somewhere in the mix there, purely because the Europeans still have their top players in QPL. The NA people have their top players in QPL duel. Australia, all our top players are here and playing Diabotical. And not only that, we have the more top players than we have in any other game. In Quake Live, we only had maybe 1, 2 at a time. Quake Champions, maybe 2 or 3 at a time. Here we have probably 4 really top players in, Phaze, Kama, Dan the King, myself. Dan's not playing that much duel at the moment. He's playing team modes, but Phaze and Kama are really playing a lot of duels, especially versus each other. And, Phaze was no joke in Quake Live. He was pretty deadly when it comes to even the Europeans. So as long as we practice a lot, I think we can really do well, because all our top players are here. And a lot of these players in Europe and whatnot, I think also up and coming. Like the CIS region has a lot of Russians playing as well. So I don't know how good they are. I don't know much about that region, but yeah, obviously I'd pick the same as these guys with the top 2 for sure. It's going to be Agent and Ved.
Yeah, I think Agent's a really obvious one. I think Ved's an interesting one because he obviously won that event, but it's more like people are excited about the potential of that guy. Like he won that. He kind of cruised to that victory there. Did he? Forgive me. Did he enter that event that Zorek won then? The test
No,
tournament?
he didn't enter.
So he didn't
Only
enter.
played in Duke. And I think went undefeated, no maps lost.
I think that specific tournament, if I'm not mistaken, because Vedmedic was living in Europe for a couple of weeks or months, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
I think the time where the TTS series was happening, he might have been traveling back to NA, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. So it's definitely intriguing, and I mean, I'm probably the most excited for whenever we can have some sort of international LAN where we get invitations from the guys from Australia, NA, EU, wherever else. There's, I know Japan has some duelers and South Africa.
Great.
If that can happen one day, where we have some big old party LAN with all these guys in, it'll be so fun to watch.
So 5 years time.
Yeah, in 5 years when we're all playing Quake Live 2 or whatever the hell is going to come out.
But I don't know whether 5 years is because of COVID or whether it's because of good studios production.
Yeah.
Always 5 years ahead.
Yeah. Well,
I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean,
No, you're not.
I think that's what we all want. I think that's what we all want, and I'm extremely excited. I think we only had one question from chat, which is thanks for the support, guys, with the one question. And it was a bit of a throwaway. Opinion on super weapons. Why do I even bother?
Moving on.
Let's
end
bother?
of the podcast.
Yeah, fucking hell. What was that one thing that it was in one of the dev updates where you click a button and all those lasers?
Don't mention it.
But yeah,
The MCA.
Bring back the laser pen for a power up.
that was it. The laser pen. That was the one. But right, I think we're going to end it there.
Actually,
more or less. Go on, Phaze. Go on.
You know what should be happening if they do introduce the laser pen? You have to study the angles on that map and where you're pointing that gun, because if you point it, you know, it kills you as well.
Bounces back.
It'll just kill everyone on the server with
Yep.
one click.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. That was great fun. I hope people enjoyed it as well. Phaze, thank you so much for jumping on.
No, thank you for having me.
No, it's absolutely cool. I mean, I did message Too Good to be on this first episode, but he completely...
I'm always the fine replacement.
Yeah.
Just
Closed his Discord DM.
He literally closed his DMs, then he opened them, and then he just ghosted my message. So that was good fun. But yeah. GMT, again, as always, the guy who never fucking sleeps. He's here drinking whiskey at silly times. And Steej, who I actually kind of fucked over this week because he had Australian daylight savings last weekend. So this is actually a fucking...
Oh, that's great timing.
Similar.
Oh, Similar. Come on.
I was just about to raid him. I've got his name copy pasted and everything. Look.
Hey.
Thank you, Sam.
How's it going, man?
No, let's do another podcast, another hour and a half. Here we go.
Yeah, come on.
I'm fine with it.
Steej,
Come on,
call
Steej.
in sick for work tomorrow. So originally we were meant to be going live at midnight for Steej's time, but it turned out it was 1 a.m. because last weekend they moved an hour ahead, which was great fun.
And I got on at 12 ready.
Yeah, you was
Oh,
on
my-
at 12, sat there. I was outside a pharmacy when you messaged me. I had to reply on my phone.
Where are you getting Viagra or something?
I'll tell you off stream, all right? I've told you about that.
Okay.
You're not meant to mention that. So. Semler's here and everything. Have some bloody respect, for God's sake. Is that why your mum called you? Did she find condoms in your room?
No, condoms?
Joe!
These are antipsychotics, Jake, all right?
Oh, this podcast has really gone down.
Yeah, we've really devolved it. No wonder we're all doing this for no money and just wasting our own times because we're all on fucking happy pills. Right, I'm going to have to find someone else to raid. Thanks, Semler, for ruining that. But yeah,
Blame the fucking guy. Why not?
feel free to follow everyone's social medias. I do want to do this every week with a new guest. It's been good fun. I think this is the sort of stuff that the game misses a little bit because there's literally like nothing out there, right? There's no content out there, and I think this is the sort of stuff that can really hook those Zoomer future players in that we were talking about to try and get them involved in this game. So it'll be good. Also, make sure you follow Phaze. I actually forgot to put your YouTube channel in your little information.
Phaze OG.
Phaze OG. I know you're working on getting some good educational stuff out
Getting a weapon guide done this week. After I'm gonna be finished with you guys, hopefully I'm gonna get back to working on it. All I have to do now is record the script. The script is gonna be done today, and hopefully it's gonna go up tomorrow. Around 3 p.m. CET time. Hopefully there's gonna be a lot of information for new players. I'm doing it in mind with the fact that I understand that the one thing that really makes the new players not enjoy arena FPS as much is understanding how the weapons work, when you have to use them and how you have to use them and when to switch. And I think once they break that understanding of how they work, they're going to have so much more fun playing the game.
It's almost like with this game, there's so many aspects that you almost need to like look at as separate, as separate entities. That the weapons is definitely like a super important one. So I totally agree. I'm going to post your little YouTube in the chat there.
Thank you very much.
GMT, what's next for you? Probably sleep. But after that, officially, what are you up to? When are you starting? When are you going to duel again? Because we have a bet to settle.
Yeah. I was going to duel today, but I'm feeling ill, so I'll leave it for now. This weekend, TimConLAN, twitch.tv/TimConLAN, we are going to be doing the EU duel qualifiers, and then the week after that, you may even see me on the official broadcast.
Hold on. Did you just fucking say duel?
Team qualifier.
He wishes it was Jill. That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, the easiest mode to follow.
Yes. Let's be
I'm
honest.
not lazy. I promise.
I'm not calling you lazy. I'm just saying I was fucking struggling yesterday as well.
Mate, it was tough.
We know you were struggling,
yeah.
mate, because you were hooked halfway
I
through.
got replaced by James. I don't know why he would even replace me. Not even that
I
good.
pretty much got replaced by James as well. I was just sitting there.
He was just solo casting
and 2-1.
He's the only guy who just loves the team mode so much he has to just do it himself because no one else can do it justice. So that's cool. We'll see GMT at the weekend as usual. Steej, what's next for you? Apart from again going to bed overly late because of me.
There's a duel tournament this weekend. So we got our duel test tournament, and then the weekend after we have our finals for threes. So lots of upcoming.
Any
tourneys for
idea
me.
who's streaming the duel tournament this weekend?
I'll be Kawachi. It'll be Kawachi Cups, yeah.
Kawachi, maybe file him on the commentary there.
Oh, commentating, yeah, probably file him. Yeah, I'd say so.
Pretty solid fellow YouTuber as well for Diabotical. I've got nothing going on. I'll just be going to work tomorrow and annoying people by trying to get them on my show. So yeah, next Monday we'll go live again. I've got to correct one thing in my little trailer that I made. I said I'd upload this same day. It was pointed out to me by a very, very smart friend of mine that if you do that, if you upload a Twitch VOD within 24 hours as an affiliate, you can get in trouble for that shit. So it will be going live 24 hours later from now, okay? So I don't lose all of the hard work that I've done. So you can watch the VOD on here, or you can wait for it to go on YouTube. And I'm also going to have to look into getting it on like an RSS feed so people can listen to it on the go on their phones. That might cost money, so feel free to donate sometimes. I'll look into it and let you know. But yeah, thank you everyone. I need to find someone new to raid again because, as I said, Semler fucked it up.
And the Harry Potter is out.
Oh, Harry Potter's grown up.
Yeah, dude.
Is Danchez there? Yeah, let's raid Danchez since we've been talking about a lot of duel. And he's also, I think, must be a new duel player because isn't he like 17 or 18?
Nah, Danches is around 19, almost 20. He's been playing Quick Champions fairly well to different circumstances, but he's performing really good in Diabotical, and hopefully he will be showing up to more lands and he's a really good player, so people have to watch out for him.
And if you've been keeping an eye on his stream, it looks like he's been adjusting to this Razor mouse for about a year because he hasn't changed his title still, so fuck it.
You're on a Viper Mini, aren't you, Phaze?
I'm on Viper Mini right now. I'm not going to be plugging it in, but there you go. And then if you loot, there's a collection of mice there.
Oh, I've got one.
Someone released.
I got one of these. Ooh, wouldn't you like this, Phaze?
Ooh, it's coming to me actually. But wouldn't you like the 8,000 hertz
I don't know what this
Viper?
is called.
Ooh, I would. But I got one of these as well.
All right, it's getting a bit too rocket jump ninja in here, so I'm going to end it there. Let's say hello to Danchez and thank you all for watching while we awkwardly sit here and smile until the raid is complete. Thank you. I don't have any music to play as well because I'm going to look at these two pros here. Me and Steve just like, what the fuck is going on? Right, take it easy, guys.
Gotcha.
You're freaking me right out.
Dude, you should have seen the beginning of the podcast when you